Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the AdultDeck podcast. I am joined, of course, by my husband, as always, but also with guest of the podcast today, Darren Imani.
Hi. That's our cue.
And today we're just going to talk more about, our love story, the lessons that we've learned, all the good things about being married and being conjoined. So Darren and Imani, introduce us to you all and tell us your love story, essentially how you all went from being strangers to now. How'd you get here, that whole process?
Okay, so I guess I'll start us off. We've known each other for a really long time. I guess we've been together for about 8 years at this point, and we've been married for 3. So we've been together for quite some time. But we met many years before that. I think when we were 12.
Wow, babies!
Yeah. And we weren't even really friends around then. We just eventually, I think we really started hanging out in our high school years, and she slid into my DMs. So that's the truth. I had the receipts for that.
No need to pull up receipts there for that.
So cute.
But yeah, so I'm Imani. Of course, this is Darren. We are 26 and 27. And Darren has a birthday coming up in March.
Hey, happy almost birthday.
Yeah. And so I called it a Pope Court love story because that's where we met. That's where everything began for us. That's our neighborhood. And we are very close-knit, family-oriented people.
Oh, so you were the girl next door, Imani.
Yeah, girl. Yeah, I was the girl.
Okay.
Didn't look very far from me, right? But yes, I was 2 doors down from Darren, but Darren's aunt and uncle lived directly next door to him. So it's like a real family affair. And then everybody knows each other, you know? And so we grew up like that, around each other. Now, when I was growing up, I was homeschooled and I didn't really interact with the opposite sex like that, you know, because like I went to a conservative Christian church and they were like, you know, you save yourself till marriage and like no purple, and like it was real heavy on the y'all can like each other, but don't look too hard.
Don't hold hands too hard.
Right. No. There was no don't look at it. It was more like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my grandmother was real strict. She lived with us. So she was always like if I would ask for a boy's help in high school or with my homework. I mean, legit, just homework.
Right.
And she would call my dad. She's talking to a boy on the phone. Like it was a whole problem.
Really?
Yeah, this is just how I grew up. But that's why I avoided Darren. And so one day when we were like I was in middle school. Y'all were probably in 9th grade.
We were in middle school.
You were in middle school too?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was rollerblading because that's what I do for my PE, whatever you call it. And I went rollerblading in the neighborhood. Darren had just got home from school and he was like, so you not going to speak? And I was like,
wow.
I was like, well there, because I was like, you've never spoken to me before. Why are we going to
we don't
familiar? Talk. So, you know, I was like, you talking to me, you know, and I'm just sitting here. I ain't saying nothing more to him. But he was always surrounded, like there's nothing but boys in this neighborhood. So I never really came outside because there wasn't very many females of my age in the area. And my parents were not about me hanging around a bunch of dudes. So I would spend most of my time in the mall. But in high school, you know, I think both of us kind of like had heartbreaks or experiences that made us feel like we don't want that no more for ourselves.
You could say, I don't say we confided in each other, but we just like, we ended up, our friendship started to grow because we were like, you know, talk with one another about what we were going through. And then of course, from there on, we just like started talking about other stuff, and we're like, yeah, and it was kind of funny. It was like, you know, if you want my best friend, you'd be a great wife or a great husband. And I'm like, but I'm not going for you.
Yeah.
I'm going for someone else, you know.
Right. I
And
was gonna say, but you're not my type, so I ain't even gonna worry about
That seed is
that.
planted in the back of the head now. So
Yeah, it's like you have all the qualities I need in a future husband. However, I'm gonna keep this on the friend level for one because I have been hurt before, and so I did not necessarily want to entertain that again. But then secondarily, because if this, I felt like I felt like I wanted any relationship I was going with from that point on. I wanted it to be based off of a friendship, and I needed that friendship to be solid before I moved into a relationship. And I was like, I've seen things as your friend. I know
Right.
things as your friend, and I know some things as your girl. So
I definitely understand that. I think around the time like when me and Peter started like seriously talking, because we were friends since high school.
yeah.
And like around the time, but we had like stayed friends. Like it wasn't, I mean, okay, back up.
I would say that.
So we had a class together our sophomore year of high school. And like through the beginning part, it didn't start as a friendship. It started out as like I'm trying to get to know you, trying to like date you, whatever. But dating didn't work out for us. we were dating
We were in 10th
for
grade.
like 2 weeks. And then we broke up, but we stayed in contact afterwards for a while, forever, I guess. But I get what you're saying. Like as a friend, like you see things as a friend and you're just like, okay, like I like you as a person, but like I don't like that specific thing. So it's like, and then you become leery as to be like, okay, so when this changes, if it was to turn into something else, do I get those same actions that you were doing? So
Yeah, I know what you mean for sure, but we were the good people in our relationships.
Mhm.
The other people was doing the damage. So when we came together, it was like, oh, you're great for me.
Great.
but little did she know, she was really toxic. It's a joke. You're not toxic.
Well,
Mine
I
was
was
like,
trying to say that so we became friends, but then as time progressed, I mean, you guys know Tyler, the neighbor, the other neighbor y'all went to school with as well.
yeah.
Yes, he I guess Darren needed to take him somewhere.
Oh yeah. I call it a rescue mission, but that's a whole different story.
Darren needed to take him somewhere, and I was packing for a trip, like one of my little school retreats or whatever.
Mhm.
And this was like the middle of the night. They were not
I'll tell the
supposed to be
story because long story short, I just freshly had either I had my license or I had my learner's permit or something, maybe provisionals, whatever.
You were ready to hit the road.
Yeah, and I didn't have a car at the time. My brother, he of course, Terrence, he had a car, and I had to go to the boulevard to go pick someone up.
Right.
Well,
I
long
thought
story
she was
short,
dropping off.
and long story short, we got to the boulevard. I turned the car off. Car didn't start. My parents don't know.
Yikes. And you wasn't supposed to be out like at all in the first place.
Yeah.
God was like, you know better, boy.
Yeah, I'm not trying to hear it, anything, And I'm just like, shoot. So I'm talking to Imani throughout this time, like, yeah, we're stuck in this car, yada yada. And then she's like, well, I'm gonna pray for you that this car starts. And she did. The person that like Imani said, we were doing it was a pickup drop-offs, I think. They left. It was just Tyler and I in the car. And after she prayed, I had been trying to start the car for at least 2.5 hours at this point, probably.
Sheesh.
So after she prayed, I tried it again. The car started
Immediately.
on the first try, and I was like, shoot, well, let's go home.
Good church prayer.
Yeah. So then Tyler said, you need to marry that woman. And I was like, well, let's start with dating or something like that. And I was like, do you want to, you know how you said when you were younger, like you didn't say you want to date me, you were like, you want to go with me,
Right. You want to go out?
Yeah. So she said, yeah, but only for a week, and
Trial
the whole
run.
week she was going to be on the retreat or whatever, and then
Wow.
yeah.
Well,
So
look,
you say yes, knowing you was leaving the next day?
yeah, because I wasn't sure. Like the last thing I was going to do was be hurt by Darren. Okay, that was like I wasn't going to do that, but at the same time, This would be the first official boyfriend for me. Like you come around my house, my people. Like this is the first official boyfriend. Like we're going on dates.
Right.
I had a friend that I occasionally interacted with, and we wouldn't, I don't think to this day anybody. No, you can't claim him as a boyfriend. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
see, yeah.
he was a friend that I liked. So let's go with that.
So did the retreat count as a part of that week trial, that free 7-day trial run?
Man, we like texted twice throughout that whole week. That was it. And I was like, man, I got this girlfriend, and I'm like, I'm a catch. I got to be faithful out here in these streets. But no, it counted. But then after her retreat, like you said, Imani said, we live in the same neighborhood. She came walking down the street, and I knew she wanted me because she came down here.
Wow.
Let me say this,
It's about to be one of them stories there.
Yeah, it's gonna be one-sided. Imani, if you know her, she was very girly, very like I don't want to say the term bougie or uppity, but like
was not.
She was real prissy.
I guess, yeah. So y'all know my dad. My dad he works on cars and all this other stuff. I'm sitting on the back of my dad's pickup truck, and here she come walking down the street to sit on the back of the truck with me and talk about,
hey, boyfriend.
Yeah. It was like, well, our week is over, like taunting me and stuff. I'll give you another week and stuff like that. And either way, the fast forward all the way up to how things are gone now. Of course, we've gone through some stuff in our dating life, and now we are married. And like I said, we've been married for 3 years, going on 4, and it has been a very interesting ride. There's so many details between there and here that oh man, it's a lot that's going on. But it's been great. I would do it again and again and again. And I think about it the next time, but probably do it again.
Well, I would say just like as a review of our marriage for the hiccups or even our relationship in general, even the hiccups, we are very clear or came to the realization together that when those things happen, it's usually because Christ isn't in the center of our marriage or our lives at that time. We're somewhere far off in our own little area. And so we are able to recognize that when we were dating, we had a problem, and we were able to come to the conclusion like, okay, these things were allowed to happen in our relationship because Christ wasn't the center of our relationship at this time. And so we made sure that we made that the foundation for our relationship moving forward, that we wanted to keep him at the forefront, keep him very involved in our marriage. It's a 3-way marriage, not just the two of us. We want him very present. And so we also know, even to this day, that if things are going left, it's usually because one of us is going to the left. And so it's always nice to know that we can revisit that and go back to the Lord, our Heavenly Father, and regroup and come back together in love.
That's dope.
So tell us about the troublesome parts. Like, if you're okay with that, can we get a little bit more detail? Because I feel like a lot of times, and I think me and Peter have come through this, but like a lot of times when you you ask a married person, oh, how's married life? How's life? And it's just like, oh, it's going, it has its ups and downs. But like nobody really, I guess, gets deep into the weeds and becomes vulnerable. With those parts, the parts that's like, okay, this specifically is what I was dealing with. So if you guys are comfortable, can you go into that? And just from a standpoint of maybe if we share our troubles and our specifics and we're vulnerable, then that will help other people with things that they're going through.
Okay. Well, yeah, the troublesome parts. So we'll go there. Well, it started off the first bit of trouble that we had. I would say, I guess, the first ever bit of trouble that we had
Are we
was
talking about
when
marriage or
I was
pre-marriage?
going to
Either
say,
or,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
both.
because this does affect marriage. It was when we were dating.
Mhm.
Uh, it was a lot that was going on, and I had a moment of being unfaithful to Imani, and I ended up cheating on her. Uh, that was a very difficult time.
Mm.
She can tell you I sat outside and I was crying and baby take me back and all
I was
types
like, you
of
had the boom box going.
it was so bad that I was knocking on her window like baby please answer your phone like I need you. I
Please,
need
I was gonna say, is
you.
that one of the downsides of being close? Like you're not answering your phone, so you're just like,
hey,
"Hey, let me in." Like,
And the funny thing about it is like we know when each other were home like so
mm,
like we just look out the window, oh you're there, why aren't you talking? But yeah, so we had that moment, and that of course affected our relationship, and uh it affected us like of course trust wise and
mm,
other ways, and I mean as you know we are here now,
right.
um
Clearly, you got through it. So, like, how did you rebuild that trust after it's been broken after you? And more like Imani, I kind of want to hear from you too. Like, what steps did you take? Like, how did you essentially move past it, but not necessarily like forget that it happened because it impacted things later on down the line?
Okay, so truthfully, honestly, guys, you never forget. You never forget it happened. Your eyes are always open, because that's not like the only trauma for me. That this was a man that in my mind, after years of dating, that this is my ideal perfect guy. Like this is my
Mm,
cookie cutter, God-given guy because you know, like he embodied perfection to me. So when
mm,
this happened, I honestly was also not just going through that with him. I was going through family problems. My dad actually cheated on my mom. And that was even bigger to me than Darren cheating on me. So because
absolutely.
out of that I got a little brother, and so my whole world kind of flipped upside down.
Hmm.
And you said, "Oh, Imani, how did you deal with that?" Now I'm kind of, how like people take experiences that they've been through and I say, I would never be in that situation, whether it's
Right.
parents or something like that. Like I can never, or I would never. And I felt like the reason why I was able to move past with Darren was because he was very consistent in
Hmm.
showing me that he was truly, genuinely apologetic, and um I'm not going to say that it would never happen again. I wouldn't say that to you today. I don't necessarily feel that way. But what I am going to say, I've tried to evaluate it and say, well, where did this come from?
Hmm.
What was left open in this relationship? Because people, I'm in it for the long haul.
Right.
I've made a commitment to say for better or for worse. I'm not looking to just say, well, this is
That's
the
it.
yeah.
Bye. Like,
A lot
right.
of people walk away, but Darren's good qualities, they outweighed the negative experience we had
Hmm.
together, I think, for me. And I was very clear, like I said earlier, that it was a God thing. Like, put it this way. I was a virgin. I um had made a vow to God to remain abstinent until the day of our marriage, and or whoever I married. But that being said, I'm sure because Darren was not, made it very challenging to be for a switch.
Hmm.
And then not only that, for what he was used to readily available to him at any time he wanted it, like that's not what was happening there for those, like, we were dating for what, almost 5 years before
uh,
we got married.
yeah,
Yeah.
we got married
Hmm.
So
at
we
the
were
5 year
together for a
anniversary.
long time
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
any interaction, physical, so that's a long, I'm not saying that I understand, but and so I believe that
The
spiritually,
flesh is
God,
weak.
yeah, the flesh is weak. And I feel like God can help you through those things.
Hmm.
So he and I were attending church together. I mean, it was getting to the point where I watched my husband kind of spiritually grow, which is why I was
Right.
able to move past. He had convictions in church where, like, babe, I need to talk to you. We need to do this, that, and the other. Like, these were things that signs for me that, okay, I know my he's a human being. He's flesh, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He's got to fight his own battles, whatever they may be, whatever his temptations are. And he's human. So that's just coming to the realization that he's human. Do I deserve that? No, I haven't experienced it ever again. However, I'm just saying that I do know the flesh is weak, like you said, Peter. Like, the flesh is very weak, and I knew very clearly that, like, if Darren increases his relationship with the Lord, spends more time with the Lord, and made that a priority in his life, that these roadblocks won't come up. And he knew that too.
Mm-hmm.
And upon that conversation, like, you make this a priority because you're also going to be the spiritual leader of our home should we get married.
Right.
We were very clear on the next steps.
Right.
And a friend of mine honestly told me, she said, if you care to continue a relationship with Darren after this situation had happened, please know that you cannot hold this over his head. He's like, this is something you're going to have to grow from.
Mm-hmm.
Your marriage is not going to last, flourish, or anything if you can't move past this. And if this is something you don't feel like you can move past, you guys need to move apart.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need to get married. Don't even need to talk about that. And I was like, well, that's true. So I had to make that decision in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I can't hold this against Darren. That's not to say that I'm not like what you do.
Right.
I'm just, I think I'm a little more woke, if you will, about, how I handle certain things. I wouldn't put him in a position of temptation or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And even to this day, I can't say that we have a lot of area for slip ups, but I know that if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that is kind of like out of our control, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Like, I know that that's an individual thing.
Right.
I don't know that it necessarily has anything to do with me. Like, what could you have done more, Imani? Like, how could you have stopped this from happening? It's not necessarily me. I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like something he's not fulfilled with, and it may be a personal thing, and it has nothing to do with me. So
I'll say, yeah, we did get through it, and Imani has never held it over my head
Mm-hmm.
at all. Like, hey, you did this, and like, no, we actually grew quite a bit from that, and it actually made me look at myself completely different. Like, what the heck was I going through in that time? But yeah, it was a very big mountain to climb over, and I'm glad we got over and got through it. But people say the past is the past, but things did happen, so we still,
Right.
even though, like I said, she doesn't throw it at me, or toss it in my face or anything like that. It's like we still know what happened,
Mhm.
and we still are learning from those situations in the past. Like whether that one roadblock that we had that we just discussed about me cheating, or other things that have happened that that may have caused issues between us. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say honestly, I don't think we've had
I don't think I hold
anything.
anything over his head, more so like accountability. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
do check in because it really threw me for a loop when it happened. I didn't understand why. I mean, other than, like I said, I could give you the reason of what he's used to and what he hasn't had for almost 5 years. And so, yeah.
Listen,
But I'm just saying that,
I'm sorry.
what you mean it wasn't 5 years?
It,
Whoa. What are you saying?
what I'm saying is, when that event happened, we hadn't been dating for 5 years.
Well,
Yeah,
it was more than a year.
more than a year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, no, we want to get to 5 years, and
And then you're just like, well, out the
yeah,
window.
it wasn't like that. No.
5 years is the limit of Darren's flesh.
No, I think it was like 3 years.
No, but yeah, because we've experienced an issue similar to that,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't deep into our relationship, but it was definitely past the year.
It was semi deep. It was like 3. It was around 3 years. Yeah, because it
I
was
might
right
even.
after.
Which ones?
Yeah, too.
But
But
yeah,
honeymoon season.
speaking on that, it's that work you try to put in to rebuild that trust. And at least I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for Darren, but it's like you said, you wouldn't try to hold it over him. But I feel like I cared for Sharon, especially as my best friend,
Mm,
so much so that I kind of held it over myself, so that when future issues would come up, I kind of always I kind of stopped now, but I used to attribute it to me breaking that trust previously. So I know for me, I kind of hold that over myself sometimes, like when in my moments,
mhm.
like so.
So
Yeah,
how did you, I guess for you and for Darren, how did you all, I guess, accept, or what's the word that I'm thinking of? Well, accept, or I guess come to terms with forgiveness. That's the word. That's the word. How did you forgive yourselves knowing that like you essentially, for lack of a better term, like created an issue in your relationship?
well, it was for me. It was very difficult because I'm sitting here thinking, I really do love this woman.
Mm,
I want her to be my wife. I want to be with her, and I've hurt her.
Mhm.
How can you say you love someone when you've
Heard.
hurt them like that? And you can say, hey, you can give all this lip service and say, hey, I'm not going to do this, etc. You don't have to worry about this ever again. All this other stuff, but it's just you have to show it by actions, and then like actually
Mhm.
like getting myself to the point where it was just like I don't want to say forget. I can't really say it's been really a moment where I've actually said, okay, I've forgiven myself for it,
mm,
because I still see that as a very like, let's put it this way. I was like, oh, I'm gonna make sure my wife or my girlfriend at the time was gonna be happy and have no issues. Because before we started dating, you know how we talked about how we kind of like confided and talked with each other. I was like,
yeah.
one of the big issues was I had been cheated on multiple
Mm,
times, and I was just like, I don't ever want that to happen. So when I did it, it was just kind of like,
You hypocrite.
yeah, it's like, well, what the heck is wrong with me? Why would I ever do this? And so
right. And you know how it feels to like have it
Same
done.
man, same.
yeah. So and at the end of the day, like I can't really say I've ever forgiven myself because it's like I know better.
Mm,
It's not like I had a moment of weakness in my flesh, like we said, but like it was just I know better, and it's not like I forgive myself about it. That's all I can say. I like I said, it stays in the back of my mind.
Mhm. It's a
mm.
Like
reminder.
yeah, like
I'm
don't.
not mad as there.
It's just like like do better. You
Mhm.
Mm,
have a wonderful woman. Show her that you love her. Do everything that you can to make sure you don't hurt her. Make sure everything is good with her mentally, physically, emotionally,
mm.
Mhm.
spiritually, and just keep putting the best foot forward that I can. So, um,
Yeah.
So cute.
I think I trust Darren but I trust God more.
Mm,
So whatever I'm gonna and I trust that I trust that Darren has a relationship with God. So I believe
right.
he need it. And so that's how I feel like I could forgive.
Mm,
Plus God asks us to forgive. And I'm learning myself mercy, If
mm.
the shoe were on the other foot, I'd want some of that.
Right.
Mhm.
Definitely.
I would want some forgiveness, some mercy. But I also know, like, I do believe that this situation has created some insecurities at times,
Mm.
like in our marriage. Um,
Oof. Yes.
but but in the past 3 years, it hasn't been anything like you're looking at that girl or.
Mm.
But I have caught myself doing stuff like I'll randomly check his phone or
I know that.
or I will have conversations with Darren where I'm like, why did this happen? I think I go back and reflect because honestly, it's just me constantly trying to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Right.
I'm just like,
Exactly.
what can we do to prevent this? Like, what is it? What do you need?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's times where I'm just laying in the bed and I'm next to Darren and I'm like, why? And he'll be like, oh Lord, this is happening again. But he's totally here for it. He's present. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, all right.
I'm not running away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like,
Like, look, man, I ain't
hey,
getting out of bed, so
Yeah.
not like turning the TV up or trying to skew away from it. He's like, babe, like it wasn't you, certain personal things that I was dealing with at the time. And like I it is a constant forgiving thing in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not saying that I haven't forgiven Darren, but I think I was just so hurt in general at that time. Like I'm trying to tell you, I'm raw, vulnerable, like
Right.
I feel like I got shut up pretty good. Like the one
and
person,
correct me if I'm
my best
wrong.
friend, my someone who I confided in,
I was about to
my
say,
everything, he is now like the enemy. And I'm like,
No,
I'm
I'm getting what you're
going through
saying.
something. I'm going through something with my parents and I need you to
Mm-hmm.
be there for me. And you're not able to
I
be
was
there.
gonna say it's like you added to the plate when you should
Like,
be trying to take stuff off at the
I was
least.
like, I hated him right there. And
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, ooh.
yeah, I was gonna say it especially hurt more depending on who it came from.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's also a big plus because especially for us, like it's like you said, dude, me and Sharon were best friends, so we confided in each other. She knew what I was scared of in relationships. She even saw the not so best side of me in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand some of her waywardness going into our relationship in the first place. And then for me to kind of confirm those fears was like one of the, and coming from her best friend, as so to speak,
Right.
I can see how that hurt even more.
So moving forward, what was, I guess, one of the most impactful lessons that you've learned throughout these oh what was one of the most impactful lessons that you've learned throughout your marriage, and more so focusing on getting into it? Because for me, at least, when me and Peter first got married, it was like nobody was really asking like, how are you doing, how are you adjusting, what things are going on. It was more so like, all right, y'all married, when y'all gonna have kids? It wasn't it wasn't like, okay, adjust to marriage as its whole like life change in and of itself. So like, what is one of the, I guess, most impactful lessons that you've learned throughout moving into marriage and going from being like two separate people to now a whole complete entity?
I feel like that process wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. You know how sometimes people say you should live together first before you get married? Well, Darren and I didn't. And so I feel like we adjusted well living together. But I actually didn't, unlike what you just said, I didn't want people like telling me what to do next because I don't feel like I had good examples around me to tell me
Yeah.
what to do next. And like they wanted to say stuff though. They had a whole lot to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, okay, but I didn't ask you though.
Right.
And
So I think for me, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
no, you're good.
but I kind of want to clear that up. It's not necessarily, I guess, looking to people, because I have literally, I was the third person in my entire family to get married, and literally everybody got married like within a year of each other. So but I didn't have any examples either. Like I had absolutely no idea. So it was more so like, right. So it was more so like I'm embarking on this life journey and I have no one else around me to confide in or talk to or even like get what's going on with me. So like how did you make that transition without necessarily having people around to like bounce ideas? Or did you have people that you can like bounce ideas off of and confide in and be like, okay, I'm not sure about this, help me think through that? Like,
So as far as our transition, it, like Imani said, it wasn't so difficult, but I think the biggest thing was like the amount of time that we were around each other, and it was
Mhm.
just like I think the biggest thing was kind of like we're married now, we're to we live in the same house. Uh, I guess so. I think that goes kind of back to like how our love language was or is,
Mhm.
like that. I feel like that changed when we got married. Um,
Really?
Hmm.
How so?
just a little bit differently, because it's like I think what was yours? Was it? I think
It's
both
always been.
quality time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like if I sit up under Imani all day long,
She's
it's
gonna
kind
like.
of
Oh, hey, why are you in the same room?
yeah. Like what's up? With, like the whole quality time thing is different. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
it just
I don't want to say that.
you don't think so?
No, I like spending time with you.
Well, so let's put it this way. Then maybe it's me because mine is quality time too. So if I'm sitting here with her and she watching 90 Day Fiance, and I'm just like, baby, I'm not getting the quality time love here. Okay, but it's like I think the biggest thing was just like how we communicate and how we move around each other.
Mm.
Um, it was my first time living on my own. It was her first time living on her own, and like I didn't know I didn't like someone in the kitchen with me when I'm cooking.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm.
uh,
Yeah.
it's stuff like that. But I think because we talk
Y'all,
so
I don't have
much,
no problem falling back in the kitchen now.
yeah,
The steak right here? Okay.
but but it's like I think we talked so much throughout our day while we were dating, and we were like we said we lived down the street from each other. So until I initially moved out, we were in each other's face. And
24/7.
Almost,
yeah.
yeah.
Like
So
I
it
would,
was like, we're going to bed. Okay, see you tomorrow.
Right.
And he was going down the street to his bed. Like,
like it was like maybe at least a 6 hour minimum a day that we would see each other. So
Mhm.
and that's not a joke, but so the transition was kind of easy. It was just like being around each other constantly. How we interact around each other's space is the key. Like, I take out the trash,
mm-mm.
okay.
Let me tell you, let me tell you something. Okay, look, this is the transition. Our transition into marriage was two things were difficult for us. It was like he said, our first time being out of the house away from our parents. And so
Mhm.
that was a little challenging because I think we both were homesick. So we are
Mhm.
here. We are
Okay.
here in
Right
this
now.
neighborhood right now. Yeah. But we are
Right.
here like every day. And so we came back here. So I think that like we're still probably transitioning, or as you're saying, because we're still in our parents' house. We
Mhm.
borderline still live here, like we part-time living here for real. And even though we can go back home,
At any
but,
time.
we'd be like, hey, what y'all got for dinner? Like we here.
Right.
So I think that kind of helped our transition, but we're probably going to go through a growth spurt at some point
Yeah.
because we constantly hear. So if this is not accessible to us anymore, or things have changed, that's going to be something different for us,
Mhm.
And I think one big adjustment, and this is getting all personal and stuff, but one big
I'm
adjustment
here for the personal. Like, let's go.
for us, like I wasn't used to somebody seeing me naked, and that man was
Oh
just
yeah.
like he would just walk in the room, and I'm like, yo, like
That's nice.
no, but it's just like this is getting too personal,
Y'all are
Um,
married. We can't get any more
Nah, like-
Saying
personal.
like we're married.
I'm
Girl.
like, shoot, I can't even take a crap without this man coming. I was like, he wants to smell my dude.
Hey,
Like,
Wait a
what's for
minute.
dinner?
That's not.
that's not
That's
true.
not.
No, that's not true. Y'all, Darren would come in. Like, I mean, this is new marriage. And I've never lived with a man that was outside of my family. And this
Mhm.
man's just like here for it all. I mean,
I'm talking
all.
to you, man, like there's conversation
Yeah.
going on. I'm not like, hey,
Yeah.
baby, like,
I mean, he's not just sitting there chilling while I'm taking a dinner, but like he's just like, yeah, so how was your day? Like, I'm like, get out.
I'm
Like-
trying to push.
When I'm finished. Oh my Lord. Like, yeah. So that was an adjustment for me. He was real in my space. Is that what you were talking about?
yeah, how we move.
Yeah,
around.
he was in my space, but like not in my space, but it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, you need to back up because this is my personal private space and you're in my bubble. And so it took me a minute to let that wall down because
Mm.
even losing my virginity,
That was a whole.
I was
bunch of-
like,
that was.
the hell y'all got me waiting for this. I was like,
I guess I need to know all that.
basically, but y'all, like, I didn't know I was doing nothing.
Mm.
I mean, I've grown, and we made a baby, so it's popping, but no, at first it was not.
So how did you work through that? Like, I feel like that's not something that you can go and be like, all right, mom, I'm having trouble giving it up to my husband. Like how do you work through it? Like,
Well, actually, Sharon, to be honest, I was like, Mom, I'm having trouble.
that's amazing.
But here's the thing, I think I also learned that one of the problems I was having, which you and I have talked about before, Sharon, was I have fibroids, and that happened. I didn't know about them until I got married. Matter of fact, I don't think they existed until I got married. So that was a problem in itself. Okay. That made this whole experience for me very painful, uncomfortable. And so I didn't want it. So, after waiting for 5 years, and it's like, yeah,
Right.
I'm a married man. Hey, baby. I'm like,
It felt like another trial that we were going through, especially when we like figured out, oh, this is what could possibly be causing it, and then realized this is what it was. It was just like, I was like she said, 5 years. I'm like, finally, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like, come on, like, what do I got to do here? So, but like, it was still, I guess you could say, like I said, our love language was changing at the time. Like I said, I think mine's at the time was quality time, and I forget what the other one was, but now
Physical touch.
I guess it was physical touch. Yeah, I guess so. But
and I didn't want to be touched.
yeah, so it kind of changed. It kind of changed when we got married. So mine's is still quality time. So I like it to come around when I'm doing stuff that I like to do. But it's not necessarily physical touch.
I don't think he liked to be touched, y'all.
Okay, well.
Today he was like, "Oh, you just jabbed me in my neck." I was like, I was trying to get a piece of lint off his shirt. I'm like, oh.
But I think now mine's is like words of affirmation. I'll put it this way. I can when we were dating, I could go up there and hug her and give her a kiss or something like that all the time. We weren't doing any intimate thing or anything like that. And now that we got married, I was kind of expecting to be doing more of that, but it didn't necessarily happen. But I guess I slowly started to change my love language. Like, hey, I'm in this marriage. I love my wife. We just have to relearn each other again. So that's why when I started realizing when I don't know what it was around the house that I did something. I guess somebody had been cooking or something. That's the only thing I think it was at that time. But then I was like,
no, he cleans sometimes too.
Yeah, sometimes. So I was
into that, Sharon?
Cooking and cleaning? Literally. So like for us, a lot of, and more so throughout like quarantine. So like I kind of, Darren, did you finish up before I kind of go into start rambling?
All I was saying was that I think I cooked or whatever, and then like she just said that was really nice or something. It just made me. I was like, wow, okay. I like. It kind of made me. I didn't think anything about it before, but now it like made me feel better. It made me feel. I don't want to say love, but I guess so. It made me feel appreciated. It made me feel like I'm doing good. Stuff like that. So, and she's kind of learned this. Give me those nice phrases that she's practiced in the mirror. And
I think that's interesting though, Darren, because when Peter said in his y'all, we listened to the first podcast, and you said that I think you didn't take words of affirmation well. I think Peter said that, right?
Yeah.
I felt that way about Darren. Like, it's kind of interesting for me to hear that he's saying that. It's not my first time hearing him say that, but like sometimes I'll go off and I'll sincerely just be like head over heels. I got something
Mm.
to tell you about yourself. You mean so much to me. You're amazing. You're this, you're that. And I think he's just like,
Okay.
yeah.
Like, all right.
I don't get the response, but it's like he's
Yeah.
loving this because I'm just like,
I do eat it up. I'm like, yeah, this is great. I'm gonna save this in my pocket for later. But like sometimes I'm like, baby, I didn't even try it that. So
And I think,
but here's the thing, like I'm genuinely, I don't serve it unless I'm really here for
Really
it.
feeling it.
Like, yeah, I'm not just gonna be like, you did a great job, and I really think you suck.
the
But
food is
like I'm
trash,
not
but
just
you
coming
did.
for it because you need to hear it. Like
Right.
if I really feel that way, then I'm genuinely gonna say like, babe,
Mhm.
that was amazing. Like you picked up the slack here. You really supported me through this.
she don't hold back words. I'll tell you that.
Mhm.
Good ones or bad ones. So
Mhm. Like, homie, you were slanging that joint last night. Let me tell you. But for me, like my love language is words of affirmation.
Mhm.
But because I didn't receive much of that growing up, it was hard for me to accept that coming from someone I know means it. So that was my issue. That's why it felt uncomfortable. I never experienced it, so I never knew how to respond to it.
Mhm. And then like for me, like I feel like my love language is changing, but it's changing because of the life changes that we've had throughout this year. So like when it was okay, we're both like getting up, going to work, spending hours apart from each other. It was like, I just want you to touch me. I just want you to hold me. Like I want to feel close to you. Um, so I mean, and I'm definitely still physical touch. I feel like that'll always be uh my love language, but I'm also starting to feel like it's more quality time now. And like it was hard. It was so hard for us because Peter is very much a routine. I do things this way, dun 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 dun, like that's it. So like for me to be like, okay, but and like I was struggling because it was always like I literally felt like for a month or two that like every single conversation we had ended up being like a disagreement or tears, us talking about, like getting deep heart to hearts. And it was just like it can't be this difficult. Like what is going on? But working through that, I realized that like it was the quality time. And like I know that's weird to say while we're like forever in the house together.
It was hard for me to get past that part.
Definitely.
So we're here.
Like we have nothing but quality time. But it was more so the dedicated part. Like
yeah, I
me
understand.
feeling like this time with me is intentional, not just all right, I'm playing the game, but I'm also here. I'm watching YouTube, but I'm also here. Like, no, like be with me, watching something with me, talk to me without the distraction of TV, internet, everything else. So it was like, and I think for me, adjusting to marriage in general was hard for me because I come from a family where it was very much work, get it done, do what you have to do. It wasn't much, all right, let's talk about your feelings. Let's do this. Like, how do you feel? Like it wasn't a lot of that. And I'm not to say that like I didn't feel loved. Like I know everybody in my family loved me, but it was different realizing that that's not the same pattern I wanted to have moving forward or for my own marriage.
Yeah, I think one of our biggest issues, and we're still working through it today, is our families of origin and the people that raised us. It's
Mm-hmm.
like she said, she lived in a household of you got to pay a bill, you get to work, get it done. There ain't no much feelings talk because I just got over a 10-hour shift. I got to go to sleep and start all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in my house, it was a 2-parent household, but my mother was a daycare provider and a teacher. So a lot of her energy went to those kids. And and both of my parents are foreigners, but my dad is an old school Jamaican. So feelings aren't really his biggest strong suit. He was more of a man where there's food on the table, a roof over your head, and clothes on your back. I did my job. So I never really got those words from another man. So hearing love and affection coming from somebody outside of my family is kind of weird for me because it's
Mhm.
like, okay, thanks, I guess.
It's like you're not as experienced in it, so you
So
don't
trying to
necessarily know like
exactly.
how to process it.
So trying to get out of those habits is kind of
Mhm.
our struggle right now. So
I would say I totally agree with you about being intentional with your time because I think especially during quarantine or COVID, whatever this year's gonna or even 21 is gonna present as
Right.
um, intentional activities together I think are going to be important because
Mhm.
that like you said we're always in each other's space, especially now that we've been in COVID. A bunch of couples are probably always together but you're not
Yep.
spending quality time
yeah,
together.
but then I'm like together.
Yeah,
Right.
no, like we may be like, oh, you're here, I'm here, but we're not spending time together.
Yeah.
And I think
Mhm.
that I value that as well. Now that you said that, it was kind of like a aha for me.
Right. Like a thing. Like, huh.
Absolutely. It's like, I want to spend time with Darren. And then
Mhm.
there's times, I've been asking him, like, babe, we got to make sure that we have a date. We have a date.
Mhm.
Because especially now we have a daughter. So it's like
Yeah.
we're always together around you. So,
And that's a part of my family of origin at least. Growing up, like I said, we had a two-parent household. They loved each other, although they didn't really show it around the kids. It wasn't until getting older and started to actually have eyes for those things that you notice.
Mhm.
But in my house, everybody had their own room. Like my mom and her daycare was either in the basement. My dad had his office. His door was closed. My brother was in his room. I'm in my room. And the only real time we came together was for dinner. So it's like I didn't understand quality time. I thought, we're in the same house. We all claim we love each other. That should be enough, right? But it wasn't until being with Sharon, living with her, that it's like, all right, not
Mhm.
everybody is like this. And those are some of the things I didn't want in my family as well, is that feeling of separation. Like I said, my dad was, provider. He provided. That's how he
Mhm.
showed his love. That's how things went with him. But for me growing up, I needed him to tell me I did a good job, that he loved me, that things like that. And so growing into our family,
Mhm.
not wanting that distance, I'm trying to at least make sure I speak those feelings, not be closed off. And it's funny because that's one of the discussions we had recently.
Mhm.
I have my office space in here in the apartment, but uh, Sharon has felt like she couldn't approach me during work hours. But it's more so like, am I really working? I'm from home, so I'm here for you if you need to interrupt me. In my mind, in my philosophy, is nothing is more important than my wife. So there's nothing I can't stop doing to give you
Mhm.
my attention. So it's trying to maneuver through
Right.
that murky water.
Gotcha. I got you. Yeah, that's funny because about the working from home thing. So uh, I've been working from home for actually since last year before Zaria was born. So I've been like
Mm,
Mhm.
doing like a hybrid schedule. So I know exactly what you mean about this whole Imani. You wanted to, are you available? Can I talk to you here and there?
mm.
And
Mhm.
at some points, she's just like, if you ain't on the phone, I'm coming to you. Like that's just what it evolved to. Like you're not on the phone, fine, I'm talking to you. Like so that's where we are now. But
Yeah. No, right. That's facts.
Yeah. So just to wrap everything up, has there been I guess life-changing monumental lesson that you all have had to learn, good or bad? Um, but just a very monumental lesson that you would want to share with the audience to like say, okay, here's a tip from us on how to have a happy, successful life.
I think the best lesson and the best tip I can honestly say is, get close to God and have a relationship with Him because He is like, when I say He has touched our lives and touched our
Mm,
relationship, He really has. Even
Facts.
to this day, to this moment, he has touched our lives. We have uh, a great amount of family around us, thanks to God.
Mhm.
And it's just like right now, as you see, we're two parents. Uh, our daughter is with her grandma, who's how old? 70 something,
73.
73,
Mm.
and she is capable of keeping up with this 1-year old.
Right.
That's a big thing right there.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
And it's just God has really helped us in our marriage, in every part of our marriage, where it's been, just our communication,
Mhm.
us spiritually, physically, financially. He has had his hand on us
That
every.
part.
I mean, over these like I said, 3 years, we've had some very highs and we've had our lows. So, but
Mhm.
God has brought us through every step of it. And I mean, really, when you put your faith and trust in Him, He is not going to let you down.
Absolutely.
Never does.
Yeah, that was like our first date. My mom dropped me off at the movie theater. And she said, "Keep Jesus between you." And I think
Darren was like going in this dark movie theater. Ooh.
I was trying all types of moves and it didn't work.
Jesus was between that.
all up in it. And so, yeah, I definitely think, if we were to give word of advice to any other couple, we would say that easier said than done, because your
Mhm.
first instinct, whatever issue that arises in your life, you're going to try and figure out how to handle it on your own. But
Mhm.
realistically, as long as you identify that God's got this and He got us, then you're gonna be fine. You're gonna make it through. You don't really have to worry about what happens next, because we're always trying to do something in our own power.
Yeah.
Right.
But that would be our most impactful word of advice to any couple listening.
No, that's good. I think that's one of the foundations of our relationship. It's
Mhm.
never us against each other. It's us against that issue. So
Definitely. Oh, well, this has been nice. Thank you guys for coming on the podcast and talking to us about your life, letting us get in your business a little bit. This has been another episode of the Adult Deck podcast, and we will see you all next time. Bye.
it's been real, y'all. Hey everybody, co-host Peter stopping by to say thanks for watching and to let you know if you like this video, check out last week's video and the playlist with all of our episodes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when our vlogs, podcasts, and gameplays drop. It's been real, y'all.